Australia is one of the most beautiful countries in the world, a paradise on the planet Earth, but there's a small problem. All these beautiful places are inhabited by the most venomous snakes, giant predators, giant fish, venomous insects, you name it. They can send you to the hospital easily in one go or leave you without an arm. But despite all this, Australia is much more safer today than it was a long time ago. The more you go back in the history of Australia, the worse it gets. 50,000 years ago, Australians were dealing with the largest land lizard that ever existed, giant snakes, marsupial predators, and terrestrial crocs that could sprint across the land. Despite this bad nightmare during the Cenozoic, the Mesozoic was a greater nightmare, and Australia was a perfect ground for these nightmarish animals to breed. The terrestrial, avian, and aquatic apex predators, they were all gathered in the same place, the Eromanga Sea. During Late Cretaceous, 50% of the landmass was submerged by the Eromanga Sea. The Late Cretaceous Period, spanning from approximately 100.5 to 66 million years ago, was the most recent epoch of the Cretaceous Period. It was a time of diverse dinosaur populations, flowering plants, and the emergence of early mammals and birds. But before all this, the vast ancient island sea had a big impact on Australia and its wildlife. The Eromanga Sea wasn't deep, only tens of feet deep in some areas, but it was big in width, over 1,200 miles at its widest point. It was the same size as the Sea of Japan. Its waters were unusually muddy and stagnant, and for the Cretaceous, actually too cold. But yet these strange, stagnating waters proved to be the perfect environment for an eruption of horrific animals, plus coastal habitats attracts all sorts of life. This led to surrounding areas to be the busiest place on Earth. That's why during the Cretaceous Eromanga Sea was the place where you don't want to be. During the Albion stage, this inland sea had a top dog who would give you big trouble, the Pliosaurus, mainly being known as the king of the Jurassic. Cretaceous did have a few still running around, and the Eromanga in particular was a hot spot with multiple kinds being present. They did look a bit similar to Mosasaurus, sporting giant wide skulls lined with razor-sharp teeth, and robust streamlined bodies with 4 large flippers helping them move with speed. But the biggest, the baddest, and most abundant in these waters was the Cretaceous. It is one of the biggest Pliosaurus to ever live and the biggest predator within the Eromanga Sea, with adults reaching 36 feet long, weighing over 15 tons. Thanks to the robust build, which made them heavier than the late giant Mosasaurus, and this might not have been his final form, as 2 gigantic specimens suggest a theoretical size of up to 43 feet, akin to the length of gray whales who reach 49 feet. Everything on this apex predator's body matched its stature, with the flippers all being longer than 6 feet, and its skull reaching sizes greater than anything seen in dinosaurs, the only exception being ceratopsids, with one specimen having a head a third longer than any known T-Rex skull. Each of these massive domes came with 6 pairs of pointed conical teeth that could be both recurved and lined with grooves, allowing for seamless deep punctures as they bit into prey, and because each tooth had a very wide base, paleontologists assume it was specialized in hunting large animals. Its teeth were unique amongst its family. Its bite force was insanely powerful. Adult Cretaceous could deliver 27,000 newtons of force per bite, which is 18 times the power of a tiger's bite. Cretaceous also had a massive appetite. It was found to have an extreme level of metabolism which rivaled those of a bird. It's believed that this giant monster was devouring tons of food to sustain itself. Its metabolism allowed him to stay in the coldest part of the Eromanga Sea. Its victims include giant turtles, Pliosaurus, fish, squid, large marine reptiles that were 60% of its own size, and even dinosaurs. Cretaceous didn't care what you were, it would devour anything in its path. Signs of cannibalism also were found, which leads us to think that Cretaceous' main obstacle was itself. This animal attacked anything that it came across. Despite its size and dominance, there were still predators willing to challenge this apex beast, even being known to take a bite out of it occasionally. Well, these crazy guys would be the sharks. The Eromanga Sea was swarming with sharks, which was uncommon for that time, as they hadn't fully re-established their dominance yet. But every corner of this sea was known to have a shark, the most dominant being the lamniforms, also known as mackerel sharks. They were characterized by possessing 2 dorsal fins, an anal fin, 5 gills, and a mouth that extended behind the eyes. The most famous was a type of Cretaceous-like shark. The Cretaceous was an absolute monster, reaching gigantic sizes and being capable of doing strikes at over 43 miles per hour, using its giant razor-sharp teeth to cause catastrophic bleeding, its teeth being so sharp getting the nickname Ginsu shark after the famous knife. While the Australian version might not have been the same Cretaceous species from America, it could be a sister species or a closer related family member, and it was in the true Australian fashion, even deadlier than American version, having similar but a bit longer teeth and growing to be larger, with adults reaching 30 feet, weighing over 6 tons, being one of the largest sharks that ever lived. Another group of predators was Ichthyosaurus. They were the rulers of Triassic and the large part of Jurassic. During the Late Cretaceous, they were seen making one last stand, thriving despite everything and reaching sizes not even seen since the Jurassic. Their diet included diverse amounts of fish, occasional marine, reptiles, and lots of squids. These guys were actually reptiles, but they did bear a coincidental resemblance to dolphins. The same agility and speed, with their length and depth ratio between 3 and 5 being the perfect amount to reduce water resistance. It also possessed smooth skin, compact bodies, and large tail flukes, making them among the fastest swimmers in Australia, about 20% faster than any other marine reptile. There was one genus in particular that was on top, the Pliosaurus, the most common being Ichthyosaurus, specialized in deep diving where it used its large eyes and toothy curved snout to pick off prey with ease. This creature was impressively huge. Measuring 23 feet, its teeth were designed for softer preys. Its size helped him take a lot bigger mouthfuls from large sea turtles, even dinosaurs, specifically birds. Occasionally, the Ichthyosaurus were killed by Kronosaurus and partially eaten by them. So as you can see, the Eromanga achieved quite a reputation due to its own giant creatures. Another species giving you trouble, but not that much, was a non-shark fish. Actually, they were being pretty normal, especially helcomorphs, Albuliformis, Elapiformis, and Aspitorhynchus. Also, there was this ugly-mouthed kuyu who used to grow over 8 feet long. Its mouth let it swallow down the prey that was almost its own size. It typically liked to stay at the surface, and it was equally distributed across the entire sea. Still, it was not as disturbing as something that we are all familiar with today, the swordfish. The modern swordfish don't have teeth, but back then they had teeth. These fish were swordfish-like. Actually, they were belonging to the now extinct Pachycormiformis order. The one in Australia was specifically the Protosphaerina. They possessed teeth similar in design with flat blades and were perfect cutting tools while being as long as the teeth of giant theropods. Another thing about this fish was its rostrum, which was reduced in length. This actually didn't affect the attack range, and yet in reality, it was actually terrible news as they played a big role in the horrific fish-killing method. Protosphaerina achieved a build similar to swordfish. It was very streamlined and had massive fins. That generated immense speeds that could be greater than 55 miles per hour, and it used the speed to torpedo into prey with the force being concentrated into its teeth and short-faced spear resulting in their prey being sliced in half. Despite being way smaller than sharks or other creatures of its time, this fish was very dangerous with adults, reaching 10 feet. Pliosaurus looked even scarier in the Eromanga Sea. They were the most successful marine group from a diversity perspective, greatly ranging in distribution and size, with some being over 2 tons and 23 feet long, and others only being slightly larger than a human. Though not monstrous hunters like Pliosaurus and sharks, but they had one major advantage, and that was their ability to adapt in a different water salinity, plus fresh waters as well, being able to travel up rivers. This granted them the opportunity to populate multiple environments. This meant that even the narrowest of waterways could potentially be harboring a multi-toned animal. Pliosaurus were empowered by strong flippers, keen eyesight, drag-resistant bodies, and their long necks let them sneakily hunt schools of fish without scaring them off. Their mouth was filled with dozens of small, pointed teeth perfect for catching fish. But no matter how efficient was their design, it didn't stop them from becoming the food of other top predators. Nothing was completely safe in Eromanga Sea, but still there were harmless animals like giant turtles, man-sized cephalopods, different types of jellyfish, chimeras, bivalve, snails, and rays. All this made the Eromanga Sea one of the liveliest bodies of water, and the most residents were predators. Why animals were so plentiful around this sea, it's not 100% certain, but one of the reasons being that the sea provided food directly for certain creatures while also creating a myriad of biomes that were rich in resources like coastal forests, wetlands, mangroves, flats, and marshes. If you still got alive out of the water, you will be screwed on land because above the land, giants were patrolling the sky. The pterosaurs thrived here because of the fish that the waters were providing. This gave birth to some massive units, including the largest pterosaurs ever, the Unhunguaridae. Over 4 kinds are known to have lived in Eromanga Basin, and they were a bit of a dying breed. Being among the last of their kind, they possessed teeth that were used primarily to hunt fish. They were easy to spot. The largest one was the Tapungaka, with a wingspan over 23 feet long, twice that of the biggest bird today. There's also the possibility they got even bigger, reaching 31 feet long. They had needle-like teeth. On the shorelines of this ancient Australia, another group of predator were thriving, the crocodilians, with 2 genera being known as Confractosuchus and Isisfordia. They were spending their time in rivers with no evidence found that they liked salt water. They were using ambush tactics to hunt animals venturing to the water's edge, or even marine animals within the water itself. Isisfordia had a narrower snout, while Confractosuchus had wider jaws, similar to those seen in modern crocodiles. These 2 types were not supersized Isisfordia, measuring 3.3 feet, and Confractosuchus being around 8 feet. Evidence shows that a general diet for these predators were animals bigger than themselves, which apparently included dinosaurs. Despite all this nightmarish environment, there were dinosaurs reigning in this area. Surprisingly, they were numerous near Eromanga Sea. Located specimens showed that virtually every type of dinosaur lived near Eromanga Sea, with specimens such as sauropods in particular. These sauropods were long-necked ones, but members of the Titanosaurus family, which to this day hold the title of the largest animals to have ever walked on Earth. At least 5 genera were around Eromanga Sea, including Australotitan, Demantinosaurus, Savannosaurus, Ostrosaurus, and Wintotitan. Each one was well over 10 tons. The biggest one, Australotitan, weighed more than 70 tons, growing 100 feet long, being the biggest Australian animal, about 7 times the size of a large elephant. They were eating leaves and small branches from the trees and foliage provided by coastal forest. Typically, Australotitan was stuck by rivers and nearby beaches. It appears that these preferences for water extended to other herbivorous dinosaurs too. Some of them were the Conbarosaurus, Muttaburrasaurus, Iguanodontids, multiple and unidentified ornithopid, and ankylosaurs. These dinosaurs weren't the scariest or dangerous, but still, they were the animals that you don't want to provoke. There were also meat-eating theropods by the coastline, and they were the worst kind possible, the Megaraptorants. They were carnivore dinosaurs that had giant sickle claws on their hands in combination with giant powerful arms, being a king of Freddy Krueger slashing and impaling the prey. Their hollow bones made them much lighter than they should have been, being the cheetahs of their times and a lot more horrifying. When Australia's old-fashioned, there couldn't be only one Megaraptorant. You couldn't find also the classified genus Australovenator, meaning the southern hunter, weighing around 680 pounds and reaching 20 feet long. They also possessed serrated curved teeth that let it easily gobble up animals and cut through their flesh like butter. As you can see, the prehistoric Australia had groups of creepy predators ruling the land and the waters, endless carnivore lists, and the Mother Nature itself. For the early Cretaceous, Australia dealt with rampant flooding as the sea expanded, killing animals, causing mass drownings. We had frequent volcanic eruptions causing tsunamis. Australia of that period was a nightmare. During the later days, volcanic activity in the region began to take upward. The volcanism resulted in the continent's edges lifting up, which began to dry slowly the inland sea and ultimately putting the final nail in the coffin for the Eromanga Sea. Eventually, it became completely replaced by vast floodplains. Researchers estimating that it disappeared when the Albion stage ended. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you in the next one.